Good morning, everyone. Time for a little coffee clutch and just a little reflection on a word. This morning's cultural connection is called Bayou Bartholomew. In July of 1989, Jerry Self and his brother-in-law were faced with the reality that in 3 hours, 500 acres of sweet potatoes would be underwater. 12 inches of rainfall had pushed the Bayou Bartholomew out of its banks, and it had reached the edge of Jerry's farmland. In desperation, he called his pastors, A.J. and Dwight Fulton, to come and pray for his miracle. Both pastors arrived quickly. The men sat on a log that had floated to the edge of the field out of the bayou, and they began to pray. And after the pastors left, Jerry continued to monitor the water and found it had stopped rising. Believing the water had crested, Jerry checked the water levels north and south of him, only to learn that the water was still rising. Jerry continually checked the gauges and spoke with other farmers again to receive the same report. The water was still rising. He went back to his fields wondering what he would find, but the water continually stayed back. For 30 days the water threatened, but it never rose higher than where the 4 men had sat and prayed. Just as God heard Elijah's prayer, he hears the prayers of those he calls to watch over his people. Now this, of course, is one of the stories in my Living Word lesson manual from Word of Flame. I like how they put different lessons together because it gives me more of a perspective on things that I see happening every day in life. I mean, and just think about that. God honors the preacher's prayer. That's supposed to be the focus for this week. But when I think about that, and I think about all the things that have been happening recently, you know, there's been a lot of violence in my community, which I've done other videos on, and anyone that watches the news can see the violence not only in my community, but around the world. But yes, God honors preacher's prayer. And yes, I am a minister. I'm not one of those that preaches hard. Like some people preach really hard and they're able to draw in a lot of people. People get drawn in by the emotion and the vigor in the message that's sent. But I'm still a servant of God and have been since 1986. But God doesn't just hear the prayer of a preacher. According to Psalms 34 verse 18, the Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart. So if you're in distress, if you feel as though you're heartbroken and you're needing help and needing His love, He'll hear you. He just will. I can guarantee it. You know, if you feel like your heart just goes, He knows your heart. He knows your suffering. He knows your troubles. Sometimes we expect Him to be like this, but it's not always so fast in His response. But everything happens timely and according to His plan and His purpose. You know, and of course in the Bible it says that in James, book of James, chapter 5, verse 16, it says that the effective fervent prayers of the righteous availeth much, meaning it does much good. What does it mean to be righteous? Do you have to be a preacher to be righteous? The righteousness involves being morally right. As we get older and we know right from wrong, to do those things that are morally right. If you know that you're doing something and that it's morally wrong, if you're sneaking from behind someone, as an example, to do something, and then hiding back behind that person, causing corruption or damage or whatever, but trying to make it look like you didn't do anything, it was that person over there, or that person there, one way or the other, is that morally right? I think it's kind of deceptive. But when you live a morally right life, doing good unto others, being honest, like people have been out cleaning up all the glass and all the destruction, pulling weeds, planting flowers in gardens. Yesterday I met some people that were in a parking lot across the street from a church, and they had this center median that was full of colorful plants. Some may call those plants flowers. Some may call those plants weeds. They were wildflowers, but they were still God's creation, just like we are. All God's people, His creation, we're like beautiful flowers in a garden. Some come up with thistles and thorns. Some things need to be pruned. And like when you prune a tree, you cut certain branches so that it grows in the direction that you want it to grow, and it lives a fuller, more beautiful life. Sometimes you have to prune. You prune bushes. And when you first prune, or you first start cutting, it doesn't look so great. It's like, what are you doing? You wrecked it. It looks terrible. I used to think that, my mother had a rose bush in her backyard and trees and a variety of things. And my cousin went and chopped everything down. And I thought you were going to be in trouble because you just made that look really horrible. But sometimes you got to cut down and cut away some of the bad part so that things can grow healthier and become more of what it should be and more beautiful. I've got this hair of mine which grows really quickly. And sometimes people ask me, why do I cut it so often? Because if I didn't cut it, it'd probably be down to my knees right now. But it grows and it grows. And then the ends become not so healthy. And so I have to cut it to keep it healthier and to have it, laying the way I would like for it to lay. So, the prayers of the righteous. God is not only hearing the prayers of those that wear a clergy collar or those that preach really hard. God sees everything, hears everything, knows everything. He created everything. Just like in the garden. When Cain and Abel presented their gifts, and God accepted Abel's and more than he did, Cain's. Cain became jealous, slayed his brother, and God said, where's your brother? What does Cain say? How am I supposed to know? Am I my brother's keeper? God already knew. He said, your brother's blood is crying out from the earth. God already knew. He hears the righteous prayer. And in these times that are so full of trouble, sickness, disease, so many people dying, civil wars, that's what I'll call it. All these little mini wars that are breaking up everywhere, and all the destruction. all this negative energy going around, when are people going to start presenting some positive energy and praying to God to heal the land? That means that if you are living a morally righteous life, you can do that too. There's no big I's and little U's. Your heart just has to be right. You have to be sincere with what you say. So, just a thought for today. You know, going around yesterday, and I even went to my favorite spot at a park to sit for a while, as I do all the time. I have specific times when I would go to that park and sit and reflect on the goodness of God. And when I went, the fountain that I love to be by with the rushing water, it was turned off and boarded up because there are some people that are having difficulty controlling their behaviors. So, in times like this, it's good to not only pray for ourselves, but to pray for those other people, that there might be some change activated in their lives. So, I'm going to take a moment to pray with you, and then I'll close this out for now. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for all that you've provided for us. You are wonderful. You're magnificent. The creator of all beings. And we bless your holy name. Forgive us of all our sins of omission and commission. Things that we may have done wrong intentionally, or not even realize that we had done wrong. Things that we may have said or even thought that were not pleasing in your sight. Continue to mold us like clay to become the people you would have us to be, that we might reach out and touch another life, help someone else to have a better day. Help us all as we're working to rebuild our communities. Help us all as we're working to rebuild relationships. And please, Lord, heal the land. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, may the rest of your morning be blessed. And find some time to pray to God in your own way. If you don't have a relationship with Him yet, seek out that relationship, because it will be beneficial to you, and you'll be able to touch other people's lives. And keep your chin up, no matter how crazy the world may look around you. Though weeping may endure for a night, joy does come in the morning. Meaning that trouble does not last always. Peace be unto you, and I'll talk to you again soon.